What is up, everybody? This is going to be take two. Uh, Basically, this is going to be an episode where I just review some games, knock some games off the old review list. And, like I said in take one, that you will not hear, it's very late. We had a very late class, and, my brain is a little fried, but at the same time, I want to get these reviews knocked out because it's important. So let's just get into it. The first game up is, funnily enough, Electrician Simulator, the console release. So basically, this game's been out on PC for a little bit. I remember when I first started taking electrician classes in it would have been 2022. Because yeah, my first electrical classes was in the fall semester 2022, and I got the game on PC, but I never really did anything with it. Excuse me, I've got to yawn. Basically, the premise of the game: you are a fledgling electrician. You're new to the field, and you moved out of your parents' house. You're in your own place, and you unload the truck in your garage. And your first task is to basically do this VR training, right? The VR training, there's a few different like modules that you can play for the VR training, and every one gives you a certification that lets you do a certain job. Like the first VR certification is basically teaching you how to to install light bulbs and troubleshoot the is it the sockets in the front? I think it might just be the switches and the light bulbs. But after you get the VR certifications, then you get to pick your jobs and go out on them. And there are also different jobs where you can have people drop off electronics. I think the first one was a game controller. And I really, I should preface this with kind of like a take it with a grain of salt. Well, no, not really. Not really even that. Basically, like the first job, it says, hey, buy the materials that you want. Or not I'm sorry. It tells you to buy the materials that you need to complete the job. But there's no, like, list or anything like that. There should be a list. And I get you could probably make the argument that, oh, well, you shouldn't need the list. But, if you're not an electrician, you need the list. I mean, even somebody that is taking classes to become an electrician, that didn't mean that I knew, like, I had an idea. I had an idea of what I needed, but if you're not an electrician at all, not taking electrical courses, a list is important. Put the list in. I don't know why there's not a list. And continuing with that train of thought, the electronics, that people drop off, like the controller something about, I really like that mechanic. I think it's really cool. Basically, you have to disassemble the product, and after it's completely disassembled, you have to go through each part to determine which parts are bad, and once you determine which parts are bad, then you can replace them, reassemble it, test the item, send it back to the customer. It's really good. But in the Nintendo Switch version, there was no way to use the controls to actually select, because to unscrew the screws to the back of the controller, you needed a screwdriver. You couldn't just use the screwdriver that you had purchased to do other electrical work. You have to have the specific screwdriver that is in the disassembly table. So there's no way to select it with a control pad. You have to use the touchscreen, but nothing says that you have to use a touchscreen. So I was literally fidgeting with this game for the longest time because I could not figure out for the life of me how I was supposed to do this. Once I figured that out, I bought all the upgrades, didn't really have a problem again, and that part of the game was fun. Now, moving into the actual electrical work, there is a lot of things that just do not lend itself to a controller. Taking apart an outlet, for example, you unscrew it, you unscrew the screws. Obviously, you turn the breaker off first. Then you unscrew the outlet from the wall. You take all the screws out of it. You connect their wires where they need to go, and then you reassemble everything back. Using a control pad for this was hugely inconvenient, and it's just because you have to move the joystick around to make very specific motion. Like you have to go to each individual screw to, screw it back in or unscrew it. And then you also have to get the right wire to the right terminal. There is an auto snap, but it still doesn't feel great. All that being said, I will say that playing after playing all this on the Switch version, I played all this as well on the PC version. And the PC version works infinitely better. So if you have an option, definitely go for the PC version. That's sad for me because, I love console games. I love playing games with the controller. It's just always like I love mouse and keyboard. I don't want it to sound like I don't, but I will, especially as a father and a husband who's working 2 jobs and going to night classes, finding the time to sit at a desk is just not in my wheelhouse. It's much easier if I can just hold a Steam Deck or an ROG Ally or a Switch and play my games that way. But that is just not something that I can do. I cannot recommend you play that game this way. Technically speaking, the game runs fine. I experienced 0 crashes, 0 technical. Oh, nope, that's not true. I did have some more control issues. A lot of times when I would have to do a button prompt, it would either not work or I would have to double tap the button. Like I would have to hit the button a few times for it to finally register. At first I chalked this up to maybe it was something wrong with my controller that I was using on I have the cracked Nitro deck, but I tried a couple different Joy-Con options and they all had that issue. So it's definitely an issue in the game. All in all, I would say that if you want to try this game out, if you're playing on PC, it is a very relaxing simulator. You can just sit there for hours and, work out people's electrical problems. If you want to play it on console, I would maybe tell you to shy away from it. You'd definitely go with the PC version on this one. Next up is Furnish Master, which is honestly one of the most relaxing games I've played in a while. Basically, there's 2 major premises of this game. One is that you're an internal internal decorator. I think that's the word for it. And there's a little story mode where you get a bunch of jobs. It's like, hey, we're we're remodeling, renovating the house. Can you come in and decorate our bedroom for us? And there's like a list of things they want in there, and you can paint the walls and all that. Just taking the time to individually place things item by item, it was just like a really kind of a cathartic gameplay experience. Like I would really find myself just kind of zoning out, placing furniture in the room, really making the room the best that I can make it. And then there's another aspect of the game where you have kind of like I guess the best way, they're puzzles basically. And these things can range from putting together, like a pipe structure, like there's a plumbing level where you have to fit all the pipes correctly. There is a level where you have to search, it's kind of like an I Spy game where you have to search for all the puzzle pieces and then place them correctly on the wall. Just a lot of creative little things like that really, it really elevates the game to more than just a decorating sim. Now, what I will say is while the game was very relaxing, I do wish that there was a little, like some kind of a rating system almost, where, like, if you don't, like it, like, I don't know how they would even do it. Maybe have like an AI scan the room to see how you place things to give you a rating. Because there were some times where I would place things and decide I would come back to them later to, kind of, like, for example, there was one where you do a kitchen and I kind of just put the table and the chairs off to the side so I can, kind of decide where I wanted to put things later. Once you put the last item on the object list, the level's over and there's no rating system. So it was a little bit of a OCD, I guess is the word, kind of like an obsessive compulsion that I didn't get to finish the level. And everything was kind of out of sorts, but the game was just like, oh, you placed everything, you're done. There is a sandbox mode where you can kind of, just decorate to your heart's content, do whatever you want. The one thing that I did really struggle with is when you're placing smaller items like books on a bookshelf, something like that. You have to kind of zoom in some spaces to see what you're doing, and it can be difficult to do that. That's really the only gripe I have for it. All in all, this is it's a decorating sim slash basically like a little creative outlet. So if you're looking for depth or a deep story, you're not going to get it here. But if you want just a game to kill time in, this is great. I played it on the ROG Ally. I'm sure it'll run on any PC you can get your hands on, damn near. But yeah, so the last thing on the agenda for today, before I turn my brain off here, I was lucky enough to finally get a PlayStation Portal. I had been searching for this thing for weeks, and I finally just got lucky enough to where I guess people just didn't check GameStop because they got stock in, and I was able to get on the website and order one. I've been wrong a lot, but usually when it comes to hardware, I'm pretty on the money. I can kind of look at something and decide that's for me or that's not for me. And when the PlayStation Portal was first announced, I said, well, I've got a backbone. I've got, the Steam Deck. Those do what I want from the Portal. I don't need a PlayStation Portal. And after trying this thing out, I'm more than happy to say that I was 1,000% wrong. This device really did go above and beyond what I expected from it. If you've never seen one, I'm going to kind of describe it to you. They took a DualSense controller and they split it in half, and in the middle they have, I think it's an 8-inch screen. So picture that in your head, and guess what? You've got it. It's exactly what you think it looks like based off that description. And you turn it on, you connected it to the internet, and you get, your updates installed, all that good stuff. And yeah, then you connect to the PlayStation 5, and from there, this thing is just a magical experience where it's got all of the functions of a DualSense controller. You've got the haptic triggers, you've got and the haptic feedback of the controller. It's obviously the PS5 controller, so it feels great in your hands. The screen is incredible. The screen is amazing. It's way better than the screen on the Steam Deck. I would say it's, neck and neck with the screen on the ROG Ally. This thing is fantastic. I played all of the God of War Valhalla DLC. I hadn't played it until now, and I played the entire thing. I kind of messed around with the Final Fantasy VII Rebirth demo. I tried out some of Demon's Souls. Now I'm working through the Final Fantasy 16 DLC. And I don't know what kind of black magic that Sony put into this thing, but it works way better than the Steam Deck does. It works way better than my backbone and my phone does. And on the same side of the coin, the backbone and the phone is great, but I like to talk to my wife on my lunch breaks. So when I'm away from the house, I can't really play games while I'm talking to her because there's no focus there. That FaceTime screen is taking up a lot of screen space, and I need that to see what I'm doing. I tried it before, it did not work. And Shiaki on the Steam Deck, it works, but at the same time, you can't play it outside of your house unless you do some port forwarding stuff that I honestly do not understand. The ROG Ally has the remote play support, the official remote play app, which does work outside of your house, but you have to download third-party software to get Sony to recognize the ROG Ally's control setup. Which, that option wasn't too difficult. But after you do the PlayStation Portal, you never want to go back to any of those things because it just, I mean, like I keep saying, it just works. Um, Actually, this morning I tried it. I brought the Portal with me to work. And I sat down at my desk and I fired up Final Fantasy 16. I played a couple quests, and it feels like the experience is so smooth that it just feels like I'm playing on a native device. And it honestly, not saying that I would do this, but there's a lot of talk right now about the Portal already being hacked to some PlayStation Portable games. That would allegedly be a good idea. I would, allegedly want to do that maybe. But at the same time, how do you? I would have to look into that because how do you store them? You can't do it. You know what I mean? Um, Downsides: no built-in internet browser. There's no excuse for that because you can say that they were trying to prevent hacking. People are going to hack it. They're just going to hack it. Even the Nintendo Switch has been hacked. If you have a device in 2024, you are going to get hacked. It doesn't matter how much and not having like a web browser, fine. On a PlayStation or an Xbox, that's fine. But on a portable device that requires Wi-Fi to use, you need that web browser because if you don't have it, then when you go to a hotel or like a restaurant that has a public Wi-Fi signal, you can't just connect the portal to it if they have a login screen, which a lot of places do. So a lot of places don't, a lot of places do. I can tell you that what you can do as a workaround is if you have the phone that's capable of it, you can connect your phone to that kind of Wi-Fi signal, do the login screen, and then do a tether wireless hotspot, and you can connect the PlayStation Portal through there. Now, it is worth noting that I also did test it with a hotspot, and it worked fine. But I would say maybe don't try games. Like I wouldn't go do tournament play with a wireless hotspot. Like it worked. I would use it for like a Persona kind of game, but nothing that requires pinpoint precision. The only other thing that I did not like about this thing, and it's even more egregious than the web browser. There's no Bluetooth in this thing. So, and I guarantee it's because Sony wanted to sell their overpriced Pulse earbuds or their Pro headset. The Pulse line is basically what they're trying to push here. It didn't work. When Sony does proprietary technology, it just doesn't work. We didn't like it with the Vita. We don't like it here. It's honestly crap. And even when I bought I went to the store and had to, just think about the last time you had to buy a wired pair of headphones. If you go to the store now, it's mostly wireless earbuds because that's just the way the world works now. Granted, I did buy a cheap pair of wired headphones. It still should work. And I had to sit there and fiddle with the headphone jack, which was strangely in on the back of the device in like a little groove next to the USB-C charging port. It's just no, and I wouldn't even be as upset if the Pulse earbuds were affordable. These things are $200. And I'm not even sure if you could use them on anything other than the Portal or a PS5. If you can't, then that's even more egregious. I would have to look into that. So the question you're probably asking is the Portal for me? If you have a good Wi-Fi speed, yes. I mean, especially if you're a parent like I am, a lot of times you can't just sit in front of a console and play games. A lot of times you kind of have to take the gaming time you have, where you have it, when you have it. There have been some times where, my daughter wants me to sit in the room until she goes to sleep. And having something like the Portal is just a godsend. So I could sit by her bed and be grinding out some stuff in Final Fantasy or playing through a game in my backlog. If you're gonna get this, get a pair of wired headphones because you're gonna need it. I mean, if you spent the $200, you want to spend another $200. That option's there too, but it's just not something I'm ever gonna do unless they go on like a deep sale, which I have a high feeling that they will go on a deep sale sometime soon because I have a big feeling that Sony's not moving a lot of these because of the price point. So yeah, that's all we've got for today, guys. And I don't know why I said and. I will see you guys next time. Make sure you share the podcast with your friends. And be sure to check out our WordPress page. I don't remember it. I'm so sorry. Maybe I'll record an intro. If I recorded an intro, you had already known because you got to the end here. Thanks for listening, everybody. Doug out.